Universe Books. Answers about life. Universe Books presents, Your Faith is Your Fortune. By Neville Goddard, 1941. Chapter 20. The Breath of Life. Did the prophet Elijah really restore to life the dead child of the widow? This story, along with all the other stories of the Bible, is a psychological drama which takes place in the consciousness of man. The widow symbolizes every man and woman in the world. The dead child represents the frustrated desires and ambitions of man, while the prophet, Elijah, symbolizes the God power within man, or man's awareness of being. The story tells us that the prophet took the dead child from the widow's bosom, and carried him into an upper room. As he entered this upper room, he closed the door behind him, placing the child upon a bed. He breathed life into him. Returning to the mother, he gave her the child and said, "Woman, thy son liveth." Man's desires can be symbolized as the dead child. The mere fact that he desires is positive proof that the thing desired is not yet a living reality in his world. He tries in every conceivable way to nurse this desire into reality, to make it live, but finds in the end that all attempts are fruitless. Most men are not aware of the existence of the infinite power within themselves as the prophet. They remain indefinitely with a dead child in their arms, not realizing that the desire is the positive indication of limitless capacities for its fulfillment. Let man once recognize that his consciousness is a prophet, who breathes life into all that he is conscious of being, and he will close the door of his senses against his problem and fix his attention solely on that which he desires, knowing that by so doing, his desires are certain to be realized. He will discover recognition to be the breath of life, for he will perceive, as he consciously claims himself to be now expressing or possessing all he desires to be or to have, that he will be breathing the breath of life into his desire. The quality claimed for the desire, in a way unknown to him, will begin to move, and become a living reality in his world. Yes, the prophet Elijah lives forever as man's limitless consciousness of being, the widow as his limited consciousness of being, and the child as that which he desires to be. Chapter 21. Daniel in the lion's den. Thy God, whom thou servest continually, he will deliver thee. Daniel 6, verse 16. The story of Daniel is the story of every man. It is recorded that Daniel, while locked in the lion's den, turned his back upon the hungry beasts, and with his vision turned toward the light coining from above, he prayed to the one and only God. The lions, who were purposely starved for the feast, remained powerless to hurt the prophet. Daniel's faith in God was so great, that it finally brought about his freedom and his appointment to a high office in the government of his country. This story was written for you, to instruct you in the art of freeing yourself from any problem or prison in the world. Most of us, on finding ourselves in the lion's den, would be concerned only with the lions. We would not be thinking of any other problem in the whole wide world but that of lions, yet we are told that Daniel turned his back upon them and looked toward the light that was God. If we could follow the example of Daniel while threatened with any dire disaster, such as lions, poverty, or sickness, if, like Daniel, we could remove our attention to the light that is God, our solutions would be similarly simple. For example, if you were imprisoned, no man would need to tell you that what you should desire is freedom. Freedom, or rather the desire to be free, would be automatic. The same would be true if you found yourself sick or in debt or in any other predicament. Lions represent seemingly insoluble situations of a threatening nature. Every problem automatically produces its solution in the form of a desire to be free from the problem. Therefore, turn your back upon your problem and focus your attention upon the desired solution, by already feeling yourself to be that which you desire. Continue in this belief, and you will find that your prison wall will disappear as you begin to express that which you have become conscious of being. I have seen people apparently hopelessly in debt apply this principle, and in but a very short time debts that were mountainous were removed. I have also seen those whom doctors had given up as incurable apply this principle, and in an incredibly short time their so-called incurable disease vanished and left no scar. Look upon your desires as the spoken words of God, and every word of prophecy of that which you are capable of being. Do not question whether you are worthy or unworthy to realize these desires. Accept them as they come to you. Give thanks for them as though they were gifts. Feel happy and grateful for having received such wonderful gifts. Then go your way in peace. Such simple acceptance of your desires is like the dropping of fertile seed into an ever-prepared soil. When you drop your desire in consciousness as a seed, confident that it shall appear in its full-blown potential, you have done all that is expected of you. To be worried or concerned about the manner of their unfoldment is to hold these fertile seeds in a mental grasp and, therefore, to prevent them from really maturing to full harvest. Don't be anxious or concerned as to results. Results will follow just as surely as day follows night. Have faith in this planting until the evidence is manifest to you that it is so. Your confidence in this procedure will pay great rewards. You wait but a little while in the consciousness of the thing desired, then suddenly, and when you least expect it, the thing felt becomes your expression. Life is no respecter of persons and destroys nothing, it continues to keep alive that which man is conscious of being. Things will disappear only as man changes his consciousness. Deny it if you will, it still remains a fact that consciousness is the only reality and things but mirror that which you are conscious of being. The heavenly state you seek, will be found only in consciousness, for the kingdom of heaven is within you. Your consciousness is the only living reality, the eternal head of creation. That which you are conscious of being is the temporal body that you wear. To turn your attention from that which you are aware of being, is to decapitate that body, but, just as a chicken or snake continues to jump and throb for a while after its head has been removed, likewise, qualities and conditions appear to live for a while after your attention has been taken from them. Man, not knowing this law of consciousness, constantly gives thought to his previous habitual conditions, and, through being attentive to them, places upon these dead bodies the eternal head of creation, thereby he reanimates and re-resurrects them. You must leave these dead bodies alone and let the dead bury the dead. Man, having put his hand to the plow, that is, after assuming the consciousness of the quality desired, by looking back, can only defeat his fitness for the kingdom of heaven. As the will of heaven is ever done on earth, you are today in the heaven that you have established within yourself, for here, on this very earth, your heaven reveals itself. The kingdom of heaven really is at hand. Now is the accepted time. So, create a new heaven, enter into a new state of consciousness, and a new earth will appear. Chapter 22. Fishing. They went forth and entered into a ship, and that night they caught nothing. John 21, verse 3. And he said unto them, Cast the net on the right side of the ship, and ye shall find. They cast therefore, and now they were not able to draw it for the multitude of fishes. John 21, verse 6. It is recorded that the disciples fished all night and caught nothing. Then Jesus appeared upon the scene and told them to cast their nets again, but, this time, to cast them on the right side. Peter obeyed the voice of Jesus and cast his nets once more into the waters. Where but a moment before the water was completely empty of fish, the nets almost broke with the number of the resulting catch. Man, fishing all through the night of human ignorance, attempts to realize his desires through effort and struggle, only to find in the end that his search is fruitless. When man discovers his awareness of being to be Christ Jesus, he will obey its voice and let it direct his fishing. He will cast his hook on the right side, he will apply the law in the right manner and will seek in consciousness for the thing desired. Finding it there, he will know that it will be multiplied in the world of form. Those who have had the pleasure of fishing, know what a thrill it is to feel the fish upon the hook. The bite of the fish is followed by the play of the fish, this play, in turn, is followed by the landing of the fish. Something similar takes place in the consciousness of man as he fishes for the manifestations of life. Fishermen know that if they wish to catch big fish, they must fish in deep waters, If you would catch a large measure of life, you must leave behind you the shallow waters with its many reefs and barriers, and launch out into the deep blue waters where the big ones play. To catch the large manifestations of life you must enter into deeper and freer states of consciousness. Only in these depths do the big expressions of life live. Here is a simple formula for successful fishing. First, decide what it is you want to express or possess. This is essential. You must definitely know what you want of life before you can fish for it. After your decision is made, turn from the world of sense, remove your attention from the problem, and place it on just being by repeating quietly but with feeling, I am. As your attention is removed from the world round about you, and placed upon the I am, so that you are lost in the feeling of simply being, you will find yourself slipping the anchor that tied you to the shallows of your problem, and effortlessly you will find yourself moving out into the deep. The sensation which accompanies this act is one of expansion. You will feel yourself rise and expand as though you were actually growing. Do not be afraid of this floating growing experience, for you are not going to die to anything but your limitations. However, your limitations are going to die as you move away from them, for they live only in your consciousness. In this deep or expanded consciousness you will feel yourself to be a mighty pulsating power as deep and as rhythmical as the ocean. This expanded feeling is the signal that you are now in the deep blue waters where the big fish swim. Suppose the fish you decided to catch were health and freedom. You begin to fish in this formless pulsating depth of yourself for these qualities or states of consciousness, by feeling I am healthy, I am free. You continue claiming and feeling yourself to be healthy and free, until the conviction that you are so possesses you. As the conviction is born within you, so that all doubts pass away, and you know and feel that you are free from the limitations of the past, you will know that you have hooked these fish. The joy which courses through your entire being on feeling that you are that which you desired to be, is equal to the thrill of the fisherman as he hooks his fish. Now comes the play of the fish. This is accomplished by returning to the world of the senses. As you open your eyes on the world around about you, the conviction and the consciousness that you are healthy and free should be so established within you, that your whole being thrills in anticipation. Then, as you walk through the necessary interval of time that it will take the things felt to embody themselves, you will feel a secret thrill in knowing that in a little while, that which no man sees, but that which you feel and know that you are, will be landed. In a moment when you think not, while you faithfully walk in this consciousness, you will begin to express and possess that which you are conscious of being and possessing, experiencing with the fisherman the joy of landing the big one. Now, go and fish for the manifestations of life by casting your nets in the right side. Chapter 23. Be ears that hear. Let these sayings sink down into your ears, for the Son of Man shall be delivered into the hands of men. Luke 9, verse 44. Be not as those who have eyes that see not, and ears that hear not. Let these revelations sink deep into your ears, for after the Son, idea, is conceived, man with his false values, reason, will attempt to explain the why and wherefore of the Son's expression, and in so doing, will rend him to pieces. After men have agreed that a certain thing is humanly impossible and therefore cannot be done, let someone accomplish the impossible thing. The wise ones who said it could not be done will begin to tell you why and how it happened. After they are all through tearing the seamless robe apart, cause of manifestation, they will be as far from the truth as they were when they proclaimed it impossible. As long as man looks for the cause of expression in places other than the expressor, he looks in vain. For thousands of years man has been told, I am the resurrection and the life. No manifestation cometh unto me save I draw it, but man will not believe it. He prefers to believe in causes outside of himself. The moment that which was not seen becomes seen, man is ready to explain the cause and purpose of its appearance. Thus the Son of Man, idea desiring manifestation, is constantly being destroyed at the hands of man, reasonable explanation or wisdom. Now that your awareness is revealed to you as cause of all expression, do not return to the darkness of Egypt with its many gods. There is but one God. The one and only God is your awareness. And all the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing. And he doeth according to his will, in the army of heaven and among the inhabitants of the earth, and none can stay his hand or say unto him, What doest thou? If the whole world should agree that a certain thing could not be expressed, and yet you became aware of being that which they had agreed could not be expressed, you would express it. Your awareness never asks permission to express that which you are aware of being. It does so naturally and without effort, in spite of the wisdom of man and all opposition. Salute no man by the way. This is not a command to be insolent or unfriendly, but a reminder not to recognize a superior, not to see in anyone a barrier to your expression. None can stay your hand or question your ability to express that which you are conscious of being. Do not judge after the appearances of a thing, for all are as nothing in the eyes of God. When the disciples through their judgment of appearances saw the insane child, they thought it a more difficult problem to solve than others they had seen, and so they failed to achieve a cure. In judging after appearances they forgot that all things were possible to God. Hypnotized as they were by the reality of appearances, they could not feel the naturalness of sanity. The only way for you to avoid such failures is to constantly bear in mind that your awareness is the Almighty. Die all-wise presence, without help, this unknown presence within you effortlessly outpictures that which you are aware of being. Be perfectly indifferent to the evidence of the senses so that you may feel the naturalness of your desire, and your desire will be realized. Turn from appearances and feel the naturalness of that perfect perception within yourself, a quality never to be distrusted or doubted. Its understanding will never lead you astray. Your desire is the solution of your problem. As the desire is realized, the problem is dissolved. You cannot force anything outwardly by the mightiest effort of the will. There is only one way you can command the things you want, and that is by assuming the consciousness of the things desired. There is a vast difference between feeling a thing and merely knowing it intellectually. You must accept without reservation the fact that by possessing, feeling, a thing in consciousness, you have commanded the reality that causes it to come into existence in concrete form. You must be absolutely convinced of an unbroken connection between the invisible reality and its visible manifestation. Your inner acceptance must become an intense unalterable conviction which transcends both reason and intellect, renouncing entirely any belief in the reality of the externalization except as a reflection of an inner state of consciousness. When you really understand and believe these things, you will have built up so profound a certainty, that nothing can shake you. Your desires are the invisible realities which respond only to the commands of God. God commands the invisible to appear by claiming himself to be the thing commanded. He made himself equal with God and found it not robbery to do the works of God. Now let the saying sink deep in your ear, be conscious of being that which you want to appear. Chapter 24. Clairvoyance. Having eyes, see ye not. And having ears, hear ye not. And do ye not remember? Mark 8, verse 18. True clairvoyance rests not in your ability to see things beyond the range of human vision, but rather in your ability to understand that which you see. A financial statement can be seen by anyone, but very few can read a financial statement. The capacity to interpret the statement is the mark of clear seeing or clairvoyance. That every object, both animate and inanimate, is enveloped in a liquid light which moves and pulsates with an energy far more radiant than the objects themselves, no one knows better than the author, but he also knows that the ability to see such auras is not equal to the ability to understand that which one sees in the world around about him. To illustrate this point, here is a story with which the whole world is familiar, yet only the true mystic or clairvoyant has ever really seen it. Synopsis. The story of Dumas, Count of Monte Cristo, is, to the mystic and true clairvoyant, the biography of every man. First, Edmond Dantes, a young sailor, finds the captain of his ship dead. Taking command of the ship in the midst of a storm-swept sea, he attempts to steer the ship into a safe anchorage. Second, on Dantes is a secret document which must be given to a man he does not know, but who will make himself known to the young sailor in due time. This document is a plan to set the Emperor Napoleon free from his prison on the Isle of Elba. Third, as Dantes reaches port, three men, who by their flattery and praise have succeeded in worming their way into the good graces of the present king, fearing any change that would alter their positions in the government, have the young mariner arrested and committed to the catacombs. 4th. Here in this tomb Dantes is forgotten and left to rot. Many years pass. Then one day Dantes, who is by this time a living skeleton, hears a knock on his wall. Answering this knock, he hears the voice of one on the other side of the stone. In response to this voice, Dantes removes the stone and discovers an old priest, who has been in prison so long that no one knows the reason for his imprisonment or the length of time he has been there. The old priest had spent many years digging his way out of this living tomb, only to discover that he had dug his way into Dante's tomb. He then resigns himself to his fate, and decides to find his joy and freedom by instructing Dantes in all that he knows concerning the mysteries of life and to aid him to escape as well. Dantes, at first, is impatient to acquire all this information, but the old priest, with infinite patience garnered through his long imprisonment, shows Dantes how unfit he is to receive this knowledge in his present unprepared and anxious mind. So with philosophic calm he slowly reveals to the young man the mysteries of life and time. 6th. As Dantes ripens under the old priest's instructions, the old man finds himself living more and more in the consciousness of Dantes. Finally, he imparts his last bit of wisdom to Dantes, making him competent to handle positions of trust. He then tells him of an inexhaustible treasure buried on the Isle of Monte Cristo. 7th. At this revelation, the walls of the catacomb which separated them from the ocean above, cave in, crushing the old man to death. The guards, discovering the accident, sew the old priest's body into a sack and prepare to cast it out to sea. As they leave to get a stretcher, Dantes removes the body of the old priest and sews himself into the bag. The guards, unaware of this change of bodies, and believing him to be the old man, throw Dantes into the water. 8th. Dantes frees himself from the sack, goes to the Isle of Monte Cristo and discovers the buried treasure. Then, armed with this fabulous wealth and this superhuman wisdom, he discards his human identity of Edmond Dantes and assumes the title of the Count of Monte Cristo. Commentary. 1st. Life itself is a storm-swept sea, with which man wrestles as he tries to steer himself into a haven of rest. 2nd. Within every man is the secret plan, that will set free the mighty emperor within himself. 3rd. Man in his attempt to find security in this world is misled by the false lights of greed, vanity, and power. Most men believe that fame, great wealth, or political power would secure them against the storms of life. So they seek to acquire these as the anchors of their life, only to find that in their search for these, they gradually lose the knowledge of their true being. If man places his faith in things other than himself, that in which his faith is placed, will in time destroy him, at which time he will be as one imprisoned in confusion and despair. 4th. Here behind these walls of mental darkness, man remains in what appears to be a living death. After years of disappointment, man turns from these false friends and he discovers within himself the Ancient One, his awareness of being, who has been buried since the day he first believed himself to be man and forgot that he was God. 5th. The old priest had spent many years digging his way out of this living tomb only to discover that he had dug his way into Dante's tomb. He then resigns himself to his fate and decides to find his joy and freedom by instructing Dantes in all that he knows concerning the mysteries of life and to aid him to escape as well. Dantes, at first, is impatient to acquire all this information, but the old priest, with infinite patience garnered through his long imprisonment, shows Dantes how unfit he is to receive this knowledge in his present, unprepared, anxious mind. So with philosophic calm he slowly reveals to the young man the mysteries of life and time. This revelation is so wonderful, that when man first hears it, he wants to acquire it all at once, but he finds that after numberless years spent in the belief of being man, he has so completely forgotten his true identity that he is now incapable of absorbing this memory all at once. He also discovers that he can do so only in proportion to his letting go of all human values and opinions. 6th. As Dantes ripens under the old priest's instructions, the old man finds himself living more and more in the consciousness of Dantes. Finally, he imparts his last bit of wisdom to Dantes, making him competent to handle positions of trust. He then tells him of an inexhaustible treasure buried on the Isle of Monte Cristo. As man drops these cherished human values, he absorbs more and more of the light, the old priest, until finally he becomes the light, and knows himself to be the Ancient One. I am the light of the world. 7th. At this revelation, the walls of the catacomb which separated them from the ocean above, cave in, crushing the old man to death. The guards, discovering the accident, sew the old priest's body into a sack and prepare to cast it out to sea. As they leave to get a stretcher, Dantes removes the body of the old priest and sews himself into the bag. The guards, unaware of this change of bodies, and believing him to be the old man, throw Dantes into the water. The flowing of both blood and water in the death of the old priest, is comparable to the flow of blood and water from the side of Jesus as the Roman soldiers pierced him, the phenomenon which always takes place at birth, here symbolizing the birth of a higher consciousness. 8th. Man discovers his awareness of being to be the inexhaustible treasure of the universe. In that day, when man makes this discovery, he dies as man and awakes as God. Yes, Edmond Dantes becomes the Count of Monte Cristo. Man becomes Christ. Congratulations, you have finished this 4th part of this book. You must have a definite purpose in your life. You know that you can do it. You are almost there. The final revelation is waiting for you. Listen the last video now. Please, share an insight that this book brought to you. Your point of view may help a lot of people. The future depends on what you do today. Gandhi. Remember to download your ebook PDF and to subscribe as well. Thank you, we will meet again.